And we're live right now. Final battle. Let's get it.
I think I'm actually muted. Or no. Oh, you ever see?
Yeah, I can see your screen. I see everything.
Okay.
The screen is there. We live right now.
Awesome.
I am going to start tagging niggas too. So we can get that Kundalini in here.
See that shit in full screen?
Yeah, I see everything in full screen.
On the whole screen is you don't see the website or anything like that, right?
Nah, I see the full screen. I think we're good to go.
Cool. Well, you logged out of Facebook, right?
No. I have to, I have to stay in because of I'm running the live.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I just wanted to know. Let's hope that some people come in here, some viewers.
Yeah, we're live right now in the group, so hopefully they do come in soon. They don't become scared. Yeah, I already tagged him. Like I didn't waste any time with that shit, cause I want to see, he's the real, scholarship Kundalini, cause I'm a scholar and I know so many things that you don't know, cause I'm a real. The 50 and man, what? Wepa 50 and man, for forever, because like I'm a real Kundalini, like not the fake Kundalini, but the real one. It's meta science, it's metaphysical, bro.
I'm actually I'm gonna take like 2 minutes and just open up on Facebook and see, be able to keep up with these comments.
Right, because that's what I'm going on my other shit. Just to see what's really popping. They haven't started flocking yet, but it's still time.
Yeah. You're able to see the viewers, right? The number of viewers.
We have one viewer right now.
Which is probably yourself.
Yeah, it's probably myself. They haven't started flocking yet, but they are in the group. So, okay. Unless they all went to sleep. Wouldn't that be funny?
No, it's too early.
It's too right, because these niggas don't sleep. Let me tag Amar's ass too, because
like for sure someone will be on crack. So.
Well, yeah, we know for sure some of them are cokeheads, like fucking Amaru's ass. Like that's a true 45 bag cokehead ass nigga. Like Jesus Christ, you suck dick for coke. Right, like on a bender. Like who does coke in 2018? Who does that shit, yo? That shit is so corny. Like
I'm Mexican, we know the process.
Right, like the process. You know what I mean? And I'm Dominican. Like you guys cook it, we ship that shit. You know what I mean? Like we transport that shit through the Caribbean.
You're getting 40 bags,
right? Yo, I tag Mark in that shit too because Mark's funny as fuck, man. That nigga is hilarious. That nigga.
We definitely want to put it.
Word, because he was like, "You are not Mexican." No, he was mad as shit. He was like, "No bueno." Right, like some random nigga he found in the fucking train station and shit, and was like, "Yo, pretend you could say this real quick, like you come on the camera and shit." Like I'll give you 40. I'll get he gave that nigga Amaru's bag. He's like, yo, I'll give you Amaru's bag, for $40 and shit if you say that you're indigenous and shit. Oh man. Brandon, I'm gonna type Brandon in here. Brandon. Don Brandon, and then we're gonna have a little bit of Riri. Oh, word. Facts. What is he like, Randy? Randy? What is it? What is his name on this shit?
What's that?
Cause he's on his other shit.
Oh, really? So you on
Nah, like every time I see him comment, he's like on some Randy shit, but I don't remember what it. It's not popping up though. Some Randy shit. It's not.
Tag Brandon too.
Yeah, I tagged them already. I tagged all them niggas: Brandon, Dalon, Amar, all these niggas that was talking all this shit, and they nowhere to be found. Well, Brandon wasn't talking shit. He's on the side of justice, but Dalon was talking hella shit. Kunda, ¿dónde está Kunda? Kunda, ¿dónde está? Kunda, come here, Kunda. Now niggas is live. Nobody wants to say nothing. Now it got quiet all of a sudden because I see no movement. No motherfuckers in sight. Motherfuckers.
And you see this map. I know you see this map.
They see that shit. They scrolling. Nigga, they scrolling past that shit with a quickness like, let me unsee this shit, yo. Let me unsee this shit. I want to see this shit. I want to see maps.
You know what is that science?
Like, I don't want to see maps. I don't want to see fucking migration patterns. I don't want to see a 50,000 year separation between different ethnic groups. I don't want to see that.
They don't want to see that 50,000 year gap between civilizations.
Right? They're not ready for that shit. They don't want to see that 70,000 years out of Africa to Australia kind of shit. No, they want to think Australian Aborigines came on a boat, on a fucking canoe, 7,000 miles away from the coast of Africa, because somehow they can't explain how they got from Australia to Africa and then to fucking Brazil. You know what I mean? Like that's that. It's like. I tell you, man. Now they're quiet though, talking all that shit, all that rah shit. Nobody, todo el mundo silento, callado. I tagged all these niggas, so they can't say they don't know. You know what I mean? We just trying to build. Like, it's all about family and love, and it's all about like learning and just destroying these misconceptions, because it's 101 album misconceptions. Like, that's what it is. Yeah.
Hold up, I'm gonna give me like 1 minute. Be right back.
Yeah. Even my dog is excited. He's a right puppy.
Hello.
Yo.
Yeah. For whatever reason, my Facebook is not allowing me to log in.
It's not?
But I just had to uninstall the app and reinstall it.
Well, that's something we could definitely worry about later.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm just waiting for viewers. Period. Like, are there any viewers right now?
I'm about to look because I had to switch over from my Chrome into the Facebook app. So I'm trying to see if we have any viewers. So far, it's just one, myself. They scared. They scared, son. I know all these niggas didn't go to sleep, man. I don't believe that shit. Y'all motherfuckers is scared, bro. Oh my god, y'all scary ass niggas. Y'all some scary ass. Right, like I can see it too from my phone. Like, you know, it's only one viewer, but they scared as shit that they're not touching this shit because they know we're about to dish some real knowledge and they don't want to come and play. Have all that time to play every other day until you see a map. And that shit scares you. You know?
I'm trying to check myself how many people are here. So.
Yeah, it just says one on my shit, but it's cool. Oh no, we got two people now.
Two people, okay. So
we got two people now. Unless that's you.
Nah, that's not you.
Oh, someone named Ben Tasidek Ben Yehuda. He sound like a Hebrew Israelite. Welcome, Ben.
Welcome, Ben. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the AMAR Destruction show.
You're about to witness some serious ass whooping.
Like the ass whooping that this group has never seen before. Like the ass whooping is gonna be so big, it's gonna take you back to colonial days, man. It's gonna be real. But we used to, when we was whipping the Spanish and the French asses, that's how big this ass whipping is gonna be. Yeah, he just posted something, a link, the story of the ancient Ewe language. Okay, relevance. What is the relevance of that? We haven't even started a topic, and you're already posting stuff.
That's nice of you. That we have that's great. I mean, we're trying to hear out these claims. We're trying to hear what exactly that these apples are claiming.
Exactly.
And not even the apples are there. We know exactly what the retarded shit that he's saying. But anybody that talks about out there all week, while I'm gone, I'm not even in the group at all, and they get loud. But meanwhile, prior to that, when I was going live, they were nowhere to be found. So
nowhere. Yeah, they. I bet you they're gonna flag the shit out of this, because that's all they do. You know, they don't like to be proven wrong, so they'll flag the fuck out of this fucking profile and this shit. It don't matter because I'm saving all this shit. It'll be back up. This shit isn't regular Facebook Live. This is like Google Hangout shit. So if y'all niggas think that flagging this shit's gonna make it go away, I'll be back in 25 minutes. just know that. Know that shit. I'll be back. So don't even try. You gonna get this. You gonna take this ass whooping. You're gonna get this L today.
You gonna learn today.
You're gonna learn. You gonna learn today. No blanket, one pillow. Fuck out of here. I mean, shit, we got 3 people now. I don't know who the third person is. Oh, no, they left.
I guess, where should we start? How about we start with just the blatant incoherence when these people are making claims?
Yes.
Anything like, they'll say something like, we was already here. You ask them, how did you get here, though? It was already here.
The circular reasoning.
Circular logic, they have no explanation. I mean, they don't believe in evolution. You know that.
Right.
So what is they saying? Did we sprout out the ground like a flower? Did we fall from the sky like a meteor? You know what I'm saying?
Did we come out of a cow's ass? Like, what is it?
Right. And ultimately, they might not believe in something so caricature like that, but they believe into some metaphysical shit where they think we vibrated
Right, which makes no sense. Like genetics is bullshit, but metaphysical shit coming out of an alien's torso, that's facts, bro. Facts. Like you can't debate that, bro.
No,
What?
but
What?
even that the reason why they're doing this, why they have to say that we vibrated into existence or some dumbass shit like that, is because that is what allows them to arbitrarily place themselves in any given region of Paleolithic history, right? So when we're talking about 50,000 years ago, 80,000 years ago, they say things like that because that is what allows them to be able to say that they were already in any given landmass. So they'll say they were already in America 50,000 years, 80,000 years ago. Shit, some of them say there's 50 million year old pyramids. Bitch, where?
Like Kundalini made this dumbass claim that in China they had, like in China for example, that they had pyramids that were older than the pyramids that you would see in Giza. And archaeologists have seen these pyramids, which are more burial mounds than anything else, and they have dated them back to at least the second century BC, which we know for a fact does not predate Egypt. Does not predate even like the youngest pyramids in Egypt, for that matter. Like Egypt has over a 7,000 year has about a 7,000 year history. So when people like Kundalini wants to say, oh well, like these predate even the pyramids in Giza, it's like, okay, so what the fuck are you saying then? Are you saying that the Chinese made their way back into Africa and made fucking pyramids there and started an empire there and that led to Kemet? Like, what is your point with that? The construction is not even the same. One was made with stone, one was made with dirt and mud, and they did that for a specific reason because they wanted to insulate their treasures, and they wanted to be able to create traps underneath so it would be more susceptible to thieves come trying to rob the tombs. So it's just because you see something that's similar in two cultures does not mean that they derive from one another. It's fucking absurd. Like as if human psychology and trying to find a way, and humans naturally just trying to find a way to make their lives easier and better, couldn't come up with the same concept and not be related to each other. Like that's, for some reason, that's so far fetched. But aliens and fucking metaphysical bullshit, no, that's facts, bro. That's facts.
So check this out. The pyramids is just one example of how we can even break down that cultural comparison game, right? Like the pyramids in Central America and in South America, and in Egypt. The word, the term pyramid, how it, you don't have to call it, you can call it whatever the hell you want. The point is that these temples, these monument buildings, for purposes like blatant differences. There are blatant differences that you wouldn't know unless you actually gave a fuck to study the shit and Google the history and the archaeological evidence behind these things. Okay, like for example, we know that the pyramids of Egypt, they know a lot of hierarchy, right? They were, for Pharaoh, there's nobody getting in this shit. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like they were protected, they were well guarded, and so on and so forth. The ones in Central and South America were primarily they were very public. They were a public congregation. They were made public for everybody to congregate and do religious practices and so on, social rituals and at times human sacrifices even.
Right.
You had a whole different dynamic with the materials that were used, but a pseudo can disregard the materials by saying that, well, they simply use the materials from that region, they learned the methodology of how to make them from elsewhere, and so on and so forth. So we don't even have to go there, but just the purpose themselves and everything that surrounds them is fundamentally different in every region that you go to. Like you said, China has its own purpose for those monuments, and Central America has its own, and Egypt clearly had its own. So there's no there's similarities, but that's as far as it goes.
Absolutely. It's pure conjecture because again, like humans finding ways to be able to adapt to their environment and using the tools at their disposal does not mean that they had like contacts with one another. It's just pure basic human psychology, you know.
Exactly. The reasoning behind them, and we could go there to see those one, because right now they probably already they want to disregard the topic of how they claim that they want to jump into some what
Of
about this though?
course.
What about this though? What about this though? No, chill, all right?
Like we need to break it down one sit your ass down.
Listen, you get down to how they make these things, or the reason why, consider them ancient architecture, ancient buildings, right? Um, and so from that perspective, um, above the reason why they built them, okay, through similarities in having them, start with a block base that scales its way down on top of each other.
Right.
That is it would have been the easiest way for any early peoples to build a monument, right, based on that architecture, so that it doesn't fall apart. Okay, it is because of modern technology and modern understanding of architecture and so on and so forth that we're able to create skyscrapers the way we do.
That's
early
right.
peoples that have just barely gotten accustomed to a lifestyle of agriculture, and they had all this freedom of time to philosophize and create religious sects.
Oh wait, hold on, bro. Hold on. Amar says that's highly debatable. What's highly debatable? Human psychology, the fact that they were building architecture for different reasons. You find that highly debatable between a variety of different cultures. Not every pyramid you see was built with the same understanding.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I would like to know what specifically is highly debatable, like the methodology, like the how they made them, depending on the region and the materials that were used. Is that debatable? That they use different materials. The purpose of them.
He's saying human beings don't need contact if a blueprint is left somewhere with details outlining something. Well, they don't need contact. He's saying that the human beings do not need contact if a blueprint is left somewhere with details outlining something. So what is the blueprint?
Well, even forget the blueprint. What he's alluding to is basically this preservation of information. Specifically, that's concrete and specific information. It's not something that's biological and abstract. Because humans have what is called collective learning, right? So it's not like hunting and gathering. You're talking about something, say blueprint is something very specific. Specifically, especially when you're talking about architecture, right?
Right.
And so check this out. Okay, African Americans are as confused as they come after 400 years, barely 400 years of separation from West Africa. Okay, but you expect us to believe that humans were migrating out of Africa with gaps of tens of thousands of years in between to be America?
It is completely absurd. Like he's saying that my premise on psychology is debatable. Well, it's not. I mean, it's but let me address this because he wants to say that it's debatable. Well, it's not, and if you think so, then what part is debatable? Because we do know that humans will use whatever they can at their. It's in our genes. We'll use whatever we can use at our disposal in order to survive, and it is not far fetched that humans entirely will find different ways to preserve different kinds of artifacts, preserve things that are culturally significant, and come to a similar conclusion. Like, this shit works, therefore we're going to keep doing this. And then another group of people will be like, okay, this shit also works, and therefore we are going to continue to keep doing this because it works. It's the same idea behind the first man using fire. All humans use fire, like it's the same concept. We all use it because we all use fire. Why? To be able to cook our food. Why? Because our food gave us cooking our food gave us a significant amount of proteins to increase our brain mass. Humans will naturally come to the same conclusion if it works for the benefit and the survival of a group. So
we don't have to stay.
Like, that's just simple psychology.
Exactly. And we don't have to stay on the topic of this preservation of a blueprint and the methodology behind building pyramids, fishing, and hunting together, and so on and so forth. We can even, you want to talk psychology, we can even invoke beliefs such as intelligent design, right? Such as archetypes of deities and pantheons. We can go into what creates those archetypes and
absolutely.
Even the head figure of the heroic figure of the savior, and what makes people believe in our ritualistic magic. We can even break that down, and we can prove through this line of reasoning, common sense, and knowledge of evolutionary psychology, how two completely separate populations that have been separated for tens of thousands of years need not have preserved no goddamn blueprint of anything to come up with extremely similar ideas.
Absolutely.
It is not hard to come up with this idea and the philosophy and the whole concept of intelligent design. It simply takes being overwhelmed by the environment around you in nature.
Exactly. The environmental pressures that are at bay. He's saying that I went off on a tangent. No, I'm explaining to you the significance because you're saying it's debatable. It's not. It's just common sense. I mean, Rodney Lopez put it the best way. Same problem can derive a similar solution. Humans, when they first migrated out of Africa, were faced with a variety of different challenges that they themselves were not prepared to adapt to. That's why you had significant generations dying off until we were able to develop adaptations and ways to survive in different environments. This is specifically why we are the most intelligent. We have been the most intelligent species that has been able to colonize the entire planet because of adaptation. So it's pure psychology that humans are going to constantly find a problem and come to a solution so they can ensure the survival of their species. That is human psychology no matter where you go, no matter who it is. So I don't know where you get a tangent from. I'm addressing what you're saying that's debatable, and it's not. It's common sense.
I mean, he's talking psychology, so we want to look at the psychology.
Right, like what part of it is debatable?
Pyramids and hunting together, or you want to talk about the psychology behind belief? Because let me tell you something. That is one of the main alleged pieces of evidence that a lot of pseudos use for their arguments. They claim that the metaphysical similarities in religious beliefs, it has to be because undoubtedly they say because of direct contact between one population and another.
Hold on, Amar is saying he's primarily first addressing the premise that you need contact for civilizations and customs to overlap. That's nobody's argument. So you're arguing from ignorance because no one said that. So you probably came into the stream mid when we were talking, because we're not saying that. What we're saying is that you pseudos have this thing where you like to play association games and you like to say, well, therefore, if there's pyramids in fucking Giza and there's pyramids in fucking Mexico, therefore the same people who made the pyramids in Giza are the same people who made the pyramids in Mexico. And what we're saying is that that's not true. So you're making an argument from ignorance that no one has argued. Exactly. It's a straw man.
Unless he's saying which case he will be agreeing with us.
Then he would be agreeing with us.
That you don't need contact between populations to produce the same similarities, because that is exactly what we are trying to convey.
Exactly. I don't know where he got that from, because we're just trying to say that you don't need contact between religion, you don't need contacts between architecture, you don't need any of those contacts for people to just be intelligent and arrive to a similar conclusion.
Correct.
You don't. So
yeah. So that's definitely one aspect of it. And the second is, again, it becomes easy to start going that route of beliefs. It becomes easy to start believing in those contacts when you have no concept whatsoever of human timelines, of historical chronology, of human chronology, and you don't see how big the Paleolithic era was before agriculture even came into development at approximately 10,000 BCE or so, and how after agriculture you start seeing this gradual rise in complexity in social orders, right? And it is after that, at around the time of 3500 BCE, give or take, for many of the different civilizations on the planet, but they all fall on that time frame. Developing these monuments and complex societies, standing armies, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Complex governments, and so on and so forth. So not having a concept of what happened before then, what led to that, is what allows people to talk about million-year-old pyramids and all these wacky things, where they have their timelines all over the place.
Right. They don't understand the importance of timelines. They feel like people just came out of Africa, walked to the Americas looking the same. They don't understand that there's a 50,000 years of separation between these groups of people, and that they just crossed over and just laid in the Americas. And it's just, it's not what it is.
Right, at all. Yeah, so, that's one big thing. It's one of the fundamental things that I've seen, that is the reason why they believe what they believe, is because they play that, like I said, that cultural comparative game, right? Like we just went through it. You can talk about the architecture that can lead to believe in that, the similarities in beliefs, physical beliefs, and so on and so forth.
Right.
That's one reason. Now, as far as if you want to talk about, for example, let's get this out the way. But before we even go to talk about the Americas, let's get there first. Like, the screen is obviously the African theory, right? That's the conceptual model. But this is why it is a scientific theory and not a hypothesis. It is a scientific theory because of the fact that you have multiple fields of evidence. Like in this case, in this slide in particular, is archaeological evidence, where artifacts and skeletons, get older and older the closer that we get to Africa.
That's correct.
Right? And vice versa, they get younger and younger as we leave Africa.
Also, I feel like we also need to touch on, because these guys like to have the argument, they don't understand that there's a difference between a theory and a scientific theory. Because they love that, they love to play that bullshit too. They don't understand that there's a difference between talking about a theory in layman's terms and talking about a scientific theory, which is compounded by different fields of discipline, and it's compounded by enormous evidence. That's how people arrive to a scientific theory. They do it. It's what you learned in 5th grade. You go through the scientific through a scientific method. You have a hypothesis. You have an experiment. Your experiment leads to whether your conclusion was valid or not, and it's peer reviewed by thousands of by at least hundreds of scientists who are experts in their field, that says, well, this conclusion, or this is what we were looking at. This is the conclusion it led to. This is what we interpret. This is what makes it fact. You know.
Correct. Yes. Theory in everyday use, in colloquially speaking, in science, what we call a hypothesis. That's not a theory. That's a hypothesis.
Exactly.
But when it becomes a theory, it's with multiple fields of evidence.
He says. Amar is saying that in itself is a word game. At the end of the day, it's still a theory, period. No, because there's a distinction between a scientific. This is why I wanted to go through this, because they don't understand. No, Amar, because there's a significant difference between a scientific theory, which is the highest principle in scientific law, than talking about theory in a layman's terms. A scientific theory, again, is backed by evidence. A theory is just pretty much how you were saying, like we would just think of a hypothesis. We haven't conducted any experiments. We haven't conducted trials yet. It's not the same thing.
It's a hypothesis. In science, it is a conclusion arrived at through multiple independent fields of research.
I'm just reading to see what he's doing. He's like, the fact that it's a theory means that things can be discovered that can contradict the theory. Of course, like that's the thing about science. Science is always evolving and changing. There's always new information being added, but then it depends on what you're talking about. You know.
Well, not only that, the fundamental premise only gets stronger. So what changes, what evolves in the future, the new details that are learned are just that. They are details, not the fundamental premise. With any given theory. So, for example, the fundamental premise of out of Africa is not going to change if we find out that human beings actually probably evolved along the Mediterranean or the Middle East, right? If the details come out to be that it was really that region where Homo sapiens developed, that doesn't change the out of Africa theory in the way that most people try to debunk out of Africa, which is with the competitive theories of out of Asia or the multi-regional hypothesis, right?
Right.
And again, and why this theory is a scientific theory is not because it's only backed by archaeology, but also archaeology, which is a broad term again that says skeletons that they older and older as we get closer to Africa. That's also speaking on artifacts that are found, right?
That's correct.
Other type of evidence, like they can take the charcoal from a place where they were cooking or burning meat to eat or whatnot. And so all of these things matter because it's not just one thing. It's not we're only talking about skeletons. We're talking about artifacts and so many other elements that go into the archaeological field. But then you have genetics, and genetics also has two parts to it. It's not just the Y chromosomal DNA, but it's also the maternal DNA, and there's no reason why they shouldn't necessarily both be back to Africa, but yet they do, and they do for a reason.
Now, Amar is saying, and that's completely 100% correct. Amar is saying right here that theories are relative to the current understanding of people that forms these theories for the fact that these theories are so subjective. Well, it's not like, again, the only thing that would change is the minute details within the theory. But scientists, for example, 98% of scientists agree that evolution happened. There's just some minute details that they disagree on, but they're never going to come. The body of evidence is never going to be that they're going to completely outlie and say that evolution never happened. That's if you think that's that's what's going to happen. It's not, because there's just overwhelming evidence to support it. The only things that will change are minute details, and it depends on what we're talking about. Because clearly, if we're talking about cosmology and we're talking about like the quantum physics and I don't want to muddy things, but quantum physics and like the loop theory and the string theory, like there's debate there, but they're never going to come to a different conclusion than saying that, okay, they're never going to come to the conclusion of saying, okay, well, God created the universe and therefore there is a God. Like scientists are not doing that. They're just debating the minute details to get to an answer. They're not going to completely contradict their whole premise.
Wherever quantum physics may lead us to in the future is not going to change.
Exactly.
The facts of particle physics, okay, of classical physics. Whatever understanding quantum physics may lead us to in the future is not going to change the fact that atoms do in fact exist. Even if at that point you want to say that they exist in one dimension, however the hell you want to look at it, we're not going there. Okay, they exist. Atoms exist made up of atoms. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so one field is not going to go away.
Amar is not saying that scientists will even tell you that they have discovered things, and because those discoveries contradict they overwhelmingly accepted view, it becomes fringe. Well, no, it becomes fringe because whatever a scientist might be studying at the time, if the facts don't align, then it is an outliner. You know, it has to align with the overwhelming evidence. If it's not aligning with that, then yes, like it's not going to be considered as such, especially if it's not even freaking peer reviewed. So that's why we have peer review to begin with.
Right, and let's be precise here. What exactly is it that you are getting at with all of those abstractions? Science can be faulty, right?
Because he did this in the last video too. He keeps saying that science can be faulty, but then you won't present a methodology that is. You know what I'm saying? He was doing that in the last video too. That he keeps saying that, oh well, there's some holes in science. Okay, but what methodology are you using that's correct? Because you base your ideas on myth, and that's not something objective.
At all.
Yeah. So it's like, what are you talking about?
With science, even with the holes in science, if you cannot provide a better alternative, then what are you talking about?
Exactly.
If you cannot provide a better, more robust, and sophisticated explanation for human origins out of Africa, then ultimately, what are we talking about? What we are talking about, I'll go there. What you are really trying to say is that because some people are working on shit and you are not, you don't want to bother with it at all, and you rather go the pseudo route. That's what you're saying. Is that because other people are actually in the field and have a way more sophisticated, complex understanding of these things, and because they are doing it and you are not, you don't have that level of understanding, you don't want to delve it, you don't want to dive into those waters. Alternative is to go full pseudo.
You know what also is too? He has that creationist argument, because I've heard it too from creationists that they'll say that, well, fringe, like creationists like that Ken Ham guy I was telling you about, like people, his supporters will say, well, he's a fringe scientist because his studies are not considered because it doesn't align with the scientific elite. And pseudo people like Amar will think that. And it's not that. It's because when you're trying to push the idea of intelligent design and you look and you can observe, like you can go to the Hubble telescope and observe these 3,000 galaxies and you can see that the universe is very chaotic. You know, galaxies appear in and out. You know, you have planets that completely destroy themselves and then become black holes, remnants of black holes. When you see how chaotic there is, no sensible person would think that there's order or there's like some magical hand putting these planets in place. So people are considered fringe, or things are considered pseudo, because the evidence does not help. The evidence does not overwhelming evidence. It does not help your position when you lack evidence to back it up. Period.
And I don't know if he was tuned in prior to the middle of our conversation. I don't know if he was here for the first 20 minutes, but we kind of went through what we went through with you, Amar, in the first video that we did with you, where we want to get to the bottom of what exactly you are proposing in contrast to the out of Africa theory. Are you saying that we sprouted from the ground, that we fell from a comet, or that we vibrated into existence? your answer to that in our last video was that you have to take myths, traditional history and oral myths into consideration. What? What does that have to do?
Well, I'm going to give him a chance to explain it because I'm about to send him a link. You can join our Google Hangouts. So I'm going to send you a link. All you have to do is sign in, Amar. And instead of typing, you can explain your position. So let me send this to him real quick. And then he can explain it. There you go, Amar. You have the link there, so there's no excuse. If you really feel like our point has holes, then you're free to come and explain it. There you go. All right, brother, my bad. Go ahead. I sent him the link, so you're free to join in at any time, Amar.
Simply curious as to what would be our methodology at the end of the day, even if we were to give oral history and mythology the privilege of being a scientific discussion, right?
Right.
Ultimately, what would be the methodology?
Like, how do you dissect fact from fiction when myths, by definition, have fiction?
Right. So if a myth tells you that we started from an animal, right? On what basis are we supposed to take that as fact? The fact that some old man in Australia or Central America said it?
Right.
Right? Like, is it so the appeal to authority? At least if you want to keep the appeal to authority, it's behind an extremely rigorous science. Right? Like, but that appeal to authority is very basic.
I mean, even then, they wouldn't even have a sound argument because, okay, you could say that we're appealing to the white man's science. Like, they like to say that stupid shit, the white man's science. But then you have a standard of evidence that you have to be able to match. So if you can't match that standard of evidence, which has gone through rigorous trials, rigorous testing, rigorous experiments, and your only claim to whatever idea or conception you have in your head is, okay, well, this man 4,000 years ago said this shit, so therefore this should be correct, then that's not a methodology. That's just you arguing from ignorance. Like, that's really what it is. So, they have to be able to dissect. Amar has to come and explain to us, how does he dissect what is fact and from what is fiction if myths by definition are half truths? So how do you dissect what is correct and what isn't? What methods are you using to arrive at a truthful conclusion? What evidence are you using? Because myths, by definition, hold no evidence. They're just folklore and tales and oral traditions. And if you ever played a game like Telephone, if I tell you something, hun, and then you tell somebody else something, and that person tells somebody else something, by the time we get to the sixth person, the story has already changed. So what methodology are you using to say that whatever you feel is fact? Like, that's anybody with common sense listening knows that shit sounds stupid. That's stupid as shit.
And on that, what people are really doing is applying the methodologies, the oral history retroactively, right? They cannot start with it as or how do I say this? Because in one sense they do start with it as their base, right? But they're working their way backwards to make scientific facts fit into that methodology, so that they can say, for example, the yogi that was saying that he could, that he can survive off of nothing, off of sunlight, right?
Right.
Was correct, because technically the sunlight is photosynthesized by plants, and then in turn we eat the plants. But it's like, no, that's not what he was saying. Okay, that's not. There's a difference there.
Well, that also goes into like how people fall for these bullshit yoga scams. That if you do all this like stretching and meditation and fasting, it's going to make you healthier. No, it's not. Like, sure, you can do those kind of exercise, but please do not confuse that for actual medical science. You know, don't think that stretching is going to prevent cancer. Like some idiot people think that that's a thing, and you know, it's just it's stupid. Like, yeah, you have to realign your chakras because your chakras are out of whack. Like, you know, you have to take these needles, these ancient acupunctures to, you know, fix a spinal injury. Like, no, like don't confuse that for actual medical science. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, man. People are slow.
Absolutely, and but I guess that's the broad end of the spectrum where we're talking about foundational arguments, but they do matter because if you notice, every time we start talking about the identity, who were the first Americans, so on and so forth, I'm telling you, it's subtle, it's very subtle, but it still depends on quacky theories like that in order to assert what they believe in.
Yeah.
They ultimately do. They go into the metaphysical, which it's a word salad. At the end of the day, it gets us to no concrete anything whatsoever. They're just stuck in this.
Or they're stuck in this time warp of appealing to authority that because a pseudo scientist, I mean, could we call them pseudos in that time period? I would just call them like they didn't know better. But a scientist from like the 1930s, for example, who like Leo, or not even 1930s, like we can even go to the late 19th century, like Leo Werner, who mistakenly looked at the Olmec heads and thought they were Negroes. They're going to use an appealing to authority fallacy to say, well, this white guy, because you know neuroscience is all bad until you feel like it agrees with you, which is ultimately hypocrisy. But this white guy in 19th century America said that, you know, we were here, we were Negroes, and the Olmecs were Negroes, so he must be right. But yet we know so much more in the 21st century than these guys knew in the 18th century, and we have different methodologies like craniology, archaeology, and we understand human anthropology a lot better than even Darwin understood in his time. For you to just fall into a fallacy and say, well, this white guy said this in the 19th century, it's ridiculous. You know, like you don't use medical techniques from the 18th century to cure a scab. Why the fuck would you use an outdated idea that from the 18th century to prove a nonsensical point?
Exactly, and then you have the hypocrisy of you everybody else using white man science.
But you're using white man science when it's all cool for you.
White man agrees with you. But then you already know that story. They have to go into the conspiracy basement and talk about how there's some white people that are putting out the truth, bro. You know, like
right, like there's some white people for the cause, that they're down for the cause, bro. Like they knew this shit in the 19th century and it was covered up. But then when you ask for information to prove their crazy tinfoil conspiracy is true, they have nothing. They dance around the subject. It's fallacy, fallacy, fallacy. Anybody watching, learn what fallacies are so you guys can have better coherent arguments when you want to debate these topics.
Right. Exactly. And while I have this up, let's just address the reason why some, the ones that, a lot of times, even that is a contradiction because I swear I have debated some pseudos who will talk about evolution as a hard African theory being white man science, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when they talk about humans populating certain regions, they themselves will use out of Africa in the sense that they will say, yeah, doesn't the white man tell me that we came out of Africa? So then the first they have is things of this area must have phenotypically looked African, right? Or quote unquote Negroid.
Right.
And there's a caveat to that because it is true that for that are beyond 14,000 BCE, where you would clearly see a more Negroid, proto-Mongoloid Negroid skull structure, right? But by virtue of one of the oldest specimens, for example, in Siberia being 45,000 BCE, in my opinion, by the virtue of that timeline, that time frame, it must have been a lot closer to Negroid and the populations of that time than the classic Mongoloid and borderline proto-Mongoloid morphology that we see later develop like around 24,000 BCE and onwards, right?
That's correct.
But so my only point to that is that while that is true, there is caveats to that. So I might as well just skip into Europe so that people can see exactly what is that.
Like show them the migration patterns, because they don't seem to understand that there were intermediate changes happening every successive generation once people started migrating out of Africa into Europe. They had
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this is through maternal DNA, how the female populations, the routes that they took out of Africa, right? And they cross with those are lineages of females, these are lineages of males, and obviously you basically have to overlap these two maps to get the most technical picture that you could possibly have of genetic lineages. But as these lineages are spreading out throughout Africa, they are acquiring mutations on top of their chromosomes that are changing them phenotypically, even if these changes are slight. When we're talking during the Paleolithic era, but eventually, by 10,000 BCE, the most evident changes, for example, were in skull morphology. So this is what the landscape after the end of the last. So all of these share in a common ancestor that was spreading around the world and even throughout Africa. And because of isolation is the reason why you have the prototypical, archetypical Congo skull structure and the Capoid and the Caucasoid and the Mongoloid and so on and so forth. It was because of isolation from each other that this was even able to develop in the first place. And this is the most evident phenotype because we're talking about skull morphology and anthropometry in general, which is like the measurements of the body as a whole, like the whole morphology, not just skull, but people vary in average size, average weight, average body limb portions.
The mass of their body as well.
Exactly. And we did the things that you would not see in external to a certain degree, right? Because I mean, for example, cold adaptation means narrow features in the face. That's what it means.
Oh, hold on, hon. We got Joseph Flores. Welcome, brother. Welcome to the Google Hangout, man.
How you feeling, dude?
Good, brother. What up, man?
How you been, man? How you been?
Just chilling. Listen, tuning into the discussion here.
Yeah,
Hoping Amar hops on. I tagged him in the link.
Good, because there's no excuse on Google Hangouts. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
You can add as much people as you want. So if they don't,
no excuse except for Kundalini. He's got all the excuses.
oh yeah, because I know he's on, and for whatever reason, I've tagged him. For what he was on all this week talking all that mess, but now all of a sudden he don't want to touch this. Scary asses.
Anything that you would like to add to the discussion so far?
Basically, they have a lack of basic knowledge. Like Amar for example, let me not get personal, but a lot of the abos, let's put it that way, they don't even understand what causes people to look different. They don't understand that first you have migration and you have isolation from a parent group.
Yes.
That leads to these different genetic and then phenotypic variations. I think, what's your name that's hosting the hangout?
Oh, it's Khalid.
Khalid just touched on that they don't understand the migrations and things of that nature. But yeah, it's basic science that they're lacking in.
Yeah.
And it leads to a whole conundrum of pseudoscience, basically, where they fill in the blanks and the mysticism and things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And to them, to be fair to them, to their credit, is many people are wondering on the average person. Certainly, I would believe the average American is probably wandering around with extremely blanket and simplistic ideas of human demographics and history and science, right? Where it is understandable that the average person might only look at things from the black and white perspective and so on and so forth. But then again, the average person is not claiming to be a goddamn expert on these things either. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we're not used either. But as you can clearly see, we have the the respect for these sciences to delve into detail on them, right? And so when you see that the apples lack basic principles, how can they be so confident and so arrogant and egotistical in the same thing that they've been saying?
Like they, because it's like how Brother Flores said, they lack they lack the fundamentals. They lack a firm foundation in science, and they like to use cockamamie excuses like, well, that's white man's. But dude, you just pulled out a fucking 18th century, 19th century picture written by a white man to commit confirmation bias. So it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everything is white man's until you use it. Everything is irrelevant until you use it, or you just you have a lack of understanding, so you just make ridiculous excuses for what you don't know.
Exactly.
It's just,
and a lot of it, we all, especially in the United States, most of us come from Abrahamic religions, from Christian backgrounds, so
right.
It's natural for us to believe in hocus pocus, and people naturally want to gravitate to that type of thing instead of getting into the detail of what's going on with these different scientific disciplines, etc.
Right. It's cognitive dissonance. It's people are comfortable in their safe space. It's the same thing why people cling on to religion, even though like you can beat it into their head 6 million times that their religion is faulty, or you could point out the holes in the number of fallacy arguments from various religious supporters. People are comfortable in what they know, and that's their safe space.
And then what they do, a lot of especially on these pages we frequent, they just replace the characters in their whole God concept. So
Absolutely.
Now instead of Jesus, I'm going to put something in place there.
The Most High.
Instead of
a higher
praying, I'm gonna light some incense, etc.
Right, or they'll take, what they'll do is to do that association bias game that they love to do. Well, there's this Gamma Tem. So this Gamma Tem, he's the same God as the God that the Meshikas pray to, or whatever the case may be. Like where the fuck did you get that from? Based on what evidence? Like you just pulled that out your ass? Like you woke up one day and said Atem or I'll go one step further, Atem or the Taino god Yaya. You just pulled that out your ass and said that they're the same people. They don't even have the same worship ceremonies.
Like
where do you get these things from, man? It's absurd.
It's like you said, they go back to what makes them comfortable.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you might as well stay in whatever religion you came from.
Exactly. Don't claim you woke. You're still doing the same pseudo religious bullshit. You're still in dogma. You're not free from it. But these people, they don't see it that way. They feel like they're woke and that they're knowledgeable and everything's white man's, and it's ridiculous. I guess Amar doesn't want to come on.
I really wish.
I wish he would. Yeah.
That's the same. That's the same person. Amar is Ethiopian Kundalini.
Oh, Amar Kieller?
No.
Yep.
No
Same
way.
No.
No. Amar, no. Amar's the dude, the frog face dude.
Oh yeah. He's the one that you had the discussion with a week ago or so, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the frog. That's frog face. So
I don't even know if I want him to come on. Jesus.
Oh yeah, that was tough. That was tough to watch. I mean, the only thing that
It's sad.
it is.
It's sad that the top three intellectuals on here, I would say is Quincy, Kundalini.
Yes.
Oh wait, hold on. Amar joined. Welcome to the live.
Finally, thank you. Perfect.
Excellent. Now we can have a real discussion going.
I started talking too much. I was talking too fly over here.
No, you good. You good, man. You good in my book.
That's why you had to hop on now.
So what's going on, man? Any particular misconceptions if you want to get out of the way that we've been talking about? Anything you want to address?
Yeah, quite a few. I was texting too fast.
Okay.
What I noticed is in these discussions is that there's so many things that fly by, it's hard to address one at a time, which is what I like to say. My stance, a lot of your examples on the science thing, I think is off. Every field of science has considered certain things pseudo, and time has proven it is fact. So your examples about quantum physics and telephone, those things don't add up.
Can you give us an example?
All right, so let's go back to where our last live left off. You mentioned mythology, right? First of all, to say that mythology is not, you can't use it as evidence, I need a clear reason as why. Because if you're using a modern example of telephone, that doesn't relate if we're talking about history. Because all ancient cultures and history always leaves a record of itself. And that includes mythology, and it comes directly from the people that we're studying. And I said this before. So,
well, you also have to take into account that storytelling, before we had television and things of that nature, was an art. So people embellish to keep the attention of the listener. So every generation is going to add their own spin or their own spice to these mythologies.
Which is why
that's naturally going to happen.
Which is why I brought that example of telephone, because you're saying like that's not a viable thing. Well, we know that people constantly through oral traditions, unwritten oral traditions, like I'm not talking about traditions that have been documented, but unwritten oral traditions, the more you pass on the story, the more that story is subject to change with every generation. Like that's just a fact. I can give you a prime example, like the Japanese, for example, had this oral tradition of the sun god Amaterasu, and that she was born from she gave birth to the eight islands that create Japan. You know, that's the start of the mythos. But if you keep going down as time goes on, as cultures evolve and they start getting influence from outside cultures like China, they start incorporating, and India, they start incorporating their own spin. Now we have a situation where it's not just eight islands birthed from Amaterasu. Now you have a situation of you have gods like the god of war, Bishomonten, which is literally a copy of the god of war that comes from the Hindu and the Buddhist traditions. it's literally a carbon copy of it. So you have people putting their own spin on things that they learn from other culture and things that are indigenous to their own land. And the whole point is that stories will continue to change. Oral stories will always continue to change. That's why it's not a reliable source of evidence for whatever you're claiming.
And then you don't completely throw out the myth, but you have to have some sort of methodology to see if things within the myth are factual or not.
Yeah, you have to. Everything has to be seen in context.
There's two things on that though. What you're talking about is traditions passed down within a family group within a generation. That's different than a civilization or a culture. Those are two different things. If my great-grandfather tells me a story from his great-grandfather, that is not the same of a civilization that lived on this land hundreds and thousands of years ago that I relate to being a part of those people. Those are two different things. They can coincide, but there's a difference. And what do I mean by that? Each civilization, dare I say, there's not one that has not left, not just oral, but oral and always something physical, not mystical, but tangible, a record, all of them, a record of how they live. It never fails. Like Jews don't have an oral tradition, but they have an oral and a written. An oral,
well, not
to the law.
Not all civilizations had the writing
like
system.
What?
Not all civilizations had a writing system.
This is the problem I have with science, is that it gets you can't fully discover truth because science, the mind of a scientist puts you in the either or position, and either or is not holistic when you're trying to discover a truth.
You said they all. You said they all leave something tangible, and then you brought up writing.
But no, I didn't. I went to oral, and this is what happens in these Facebook groups. I'll say something.
You also said writing.
In addition to writing, but it's very. But what I said was they leave tangible. When I want.
Okay, what is something tangible outside of writing?
But even what you just said, ancient cultures. First of all, writing is something that is new to human beings. Ancient civilizations communicate.
No, that's not true.
That's our whole point.
Wait, but that's what I'm saying. But let me finish though.
Okay.
The issue I got in these Facebook groups is I'm very specific. So when I say tangible, if there's something on the walls or a sculpture, right? That's why I said this thing with the Cerruti Mastodon and the fossils. These shits tell a story. These are tangible things that they put up there that reflects a time period and a people and a geography. When you put those things together, you have a story, and then you put those stories with other things that you call evidence to deduce a conclusion. That's science. To eliminate these things, not writing, these tangible things from these people and not put it with DNA and not put it with artifacts is crazy to me. And I'm not talking about your grandpa's stories. I'm talking about civilizations that you can put the DNA, that you can put the artifacts. The reason why we can't come to a clear conclusion and we're always arguing is because we're not counting shit like mythology, which is shown through all cultures, all major ancient cultures, to be freaking factual. And then science will come out with some shit and say, oh yeah, this is shown to be proven true later, where we could have avoided this by including it from the beginning. That is my problem with science.
If I can say here, and so where are we getting at if the Hopi say that we came out the ground from an animal?
Hold on, say that again.
So where are we getting at if the Hopi say that we came out of an animal, that is where how humanity was created?
Okay. See, I'm sure in that you're leaving context. I'm sure it wasn't just one document that said ants come from ground. I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure you're leaving a whole bunch of context. All right, I'll give you an example. Right, in Egypt, they had the scarab and the beetle, right, and then the scarab was very sacred to the Egyptian culture. They show how the scarab rolls the dawn and all that into a perfect sphere. If you look at biology and you look at the magnetic field of how everything operates, you will see that this process of the energy that stops things from leaving and entering planet Earth, the shape of this matches the scarab, and everything in that mythology with the scarab, when you put it to biology, when you put it to quantum physics, when you put it to even genetics, it matches the mythology of the scarab. That's fact. I can show it. We can have a whole separate. It's not just that. In terms of the anvil, first of all, and I had this.
But there's a level of conjecture to that, because I've heard people give several different versions of what that scarab represents.
Okay, so
like some people say that it pushing the dung is the world or the earth revolving in the solar system. Some people say it represents everlasting life. There's a level of conjecture to it if we're interpreting art.
But look what you just said. Now I gave the example of the solar system. You gave an example of the solar system. So me and you, without even knowing we're gonna have this conversation, both gave.
We could both be wrong.
No. But see, that's the thing. But you're missing what I said. We totally didn't plan this, and you mentioned the same thing I did. So this is when we put the science to it. All right, well, let's check this bullshit stories of fucking solar system and apply it and see what's what.
Okay, but they didn't explicitly hold on there, because they did not explicitly say it was solar system. You are interpreting that from drawings, and that would be the same thing as if I were to take the cookbook right now and I see a recipe at any random book in the library, and I find a cookbook and I open up a random page and I see that some of the ingredients are salt and pepper and so on and so forth. I can make up a complete conjecture out of that and say that the salt represents the good in man, and that the pepper represents evil, or I can even say that the pepper represents dark matter and the salt represents the stars. You know what I'm saying? You can do that with anything.
Hey, brother, you could do that also with religion, like just how based on the different for example, Christianity has 4,000 denominations, right? That's 4,000 different interpretations of a book written in like the 2nd millennium BC.
And how many creation stories does Egypt have?
Ooh.
Egypt has like 8 different creation stories.
8 different creation stories. It goes back to what I told you about the telephone. It's conjecture. People are going to constantly have their own interpretations to myths. And that is why looking at myths, when historians are studying myths, they're not coming from a perspective of whether this was true or not. Historians are not debating that. They're trying to understand how previous ancient cultures use myths to explain the world around them. They don't use it as like, all right, well, this was factual, and therefore we need to observe why this was factual. They're just trying to understand the context of that civilization. Absolutely.
I never said they took that as fact. I'm saying it's integrated. There's no difference when I find a fossil. You find a fossil, you have the same.
But you're saying it's integrated, though. Is integrated to what? Like they're looking at it from an objective point of view. They're not looking at it as if to say, well, fuck, like Yahya, the Taino god, came out of like 2 volcanoes and shit, and therefore, that describes the world around us. No, they're looking they look at it from a historical perspective. How did the ancient people understand what we're trying to interpret the world around them? That's all it is.
No.
And then what about when they find things? Okay, you said they find some things that are true, like let's say in Christianity or Egyptian mythology. What about when they go in those same spiritual systems and find things that they know are also false?
You're talking, see what I'm saying about where I always get in arguments from people on Facebook? I never mentioned religion.
I know you didn't, but I brought it in as an example that it's just not. It's just people making constant different interpretations based on something they see. What is your methodology to determine fact from fiction? That's the crux we need to get to.
Religion is a poor example. In fact, scientists don't even have facts. They have theories. I don't care how you quantify it and put it on it.
So you think so let me ask you a question. So you think the theory of relativity is not a fact? Because I'm telling you right now, if you jump off a building, you're gonna find real quick that's a fact.
In fact, I'm glad you gave that example. I'm happy you gave that example, and I hope we get in the quantum physics. It's already been showing that shit is bullshit.
So gravity is bullshit?
Not me. Not friends.
Hold on. So gravity is bullshit. You want to go on record saying gravity is bullshit?
I never said, see what I'm saying? This is the fallacies I'm talking about.
Not because you said the theory. No, brother, I'm using your words. You said the theory of relativity. That shit is bullshit. Well, gravity is in that theory. Are you therefore saying gravity is bullshit?
That's not a fallacy. You said, well, gravity is within the theory.
I'm asking a question. Do you feel gravity is bullshit? Yes or no?
No, I never said gravity.
Okay, then.
I said the theory of relativity is bullshit. Just because there's a piece of something in the whole doesn't make that piece the entire whole.
So what part of the theory do you feel is bullshit?
Because I'm talking to people like y'all, I'd have to present what I'm saying with some actual things to back it up, because I'm going to say it now, you're going to say it's pseudo. That's why in the groups, I'll say some shit. But
don't worry about what we say. Just present what you think. If it's bullshit, then present it. You do.
I hate when people say wild shit and then they fucking give a picture or something. It makes it look, I'm like, dude, fucking it up. I don't like doing that. If I jump out the window, I like to be like, yo, here's my goddamn sources. I don't jump out the window if I can't show some sources.
Well, I just wanted to be clear on your position of gravity, because people love to say that the theory of relativity is bullshit.
None of us are expert physicists, and people like Sean Carroll will humble every single one of us in this topic. So, but let's take something more concrete.
That's a fact.
Let's talk about a goddamn skeleton. What part of a skeleton is a goddamn theory? Because that's raw data.
You mean like
measurements, skull measurements, anatometry, measurements of the body weight proportions, measurements of the bone density, measurements of the tooth morphology. What part of that is theory?
Well, I'm not even gonna get in a conspiracy zone with y'all tonight. So I'm gonna address your question directly.
No, we don't want to hear about the Vatican. Nope.
No. But I wouldn't say no shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, to address your question directly, the mere fact that we're dealing with ancient bones means that the shit is not even put together in a way in which we can adequately assess what it is. That's why most of the shit they fucking discover is a mystery. They can't even extract the DNA from it. So my question, and that's why
okay, so what? We still have craniometry.
Let me finish. That's why in the first live, I wanted you to get on record and ask you, what percentage of findings of these bones do you think they actually can find the DNA of? You said 25%. So that leaves 75% of fucking bones that we can't even identify. So as time goes on, we're going off of, well, it hasn't been the Denovices, it hasn't been this, but there's 75% of missing information of shit that we find, which we've shown as predated all the shit we thought was original, but because we can't extract DNA from it, we have to go with, Lucia and Clovis. But what about the other 75% of shit that we find? We don't know where it's from.
But that's not how that.
Genetics. I'm sorry, but you want to talk to genetics. I was speaking. You find the skeleton right now, buried in the ground. You do anthropometric measurements on it. What part of that is theoretical?
In terms of what? In terms of measuring the size of the shape of the head. The size.
No. All the size of the head, because you have the facial. Part you have there's so many different parts to it, and nowadays they're not doing it old school like they would do that in the 1800s, where they would actually literally take these measurements by hand. They actually have scanners now, and all that data is processed and put into the computer. So my issue is never ever, and you're gonna prove me wrong, with the actual skeletons and the measuring of the heads. It was never that.
And if we don't, and if what you just said, if we don't know, we don't know. That when we don't know, that doesn't mean we could then fill in the blanks with whatever we
God of the gaps
or whatever
fallacy.
we come up with.
That's a God of the gas fallacy.
But you can't say that because this is why.
Yes, you can, because
Yes, you can.
God of the gaps fallacy.
Yep.
God of the gaps. It's called the God of the gaps. God of the gaps because science is about observable. What has been observed, it has been quantified, it has been measured. So, and your God of the gaps is an Afrocentric God because in this case, because we have not found a single skeleton that is Scandinavian in the Americas, are we then to insert a random fucking Scandinavian in the Americas? Because we have
hold on. But see, you're now you're lumping two different things. If you're talking about measuring heads itself, I don't have any issue with that. I never said that was false. If you're just talking about measuring the heads,
you're saying
no problem.
You're saying if we can't identify, science is based on what we do know.
Right.
So we do know this skeleton has this DNA and it comes from here. It's attached to this population. If we don't know, we don't know. You can't then say, well, I know this when you just said we don't know.
No, but nah, I never said that. He was talking about just the measuring of the skeleton. That is, but my problem isn't with that. My problem is what you deduce from that. Okay. Not the measuring of itself, which is what he asked me. Right. You measure these things to deduce things for a conclusion, correct? Correct.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just measure them for the sake of. You measure these for identification purposes.
Okay.
To extract other things to come to a conclusion about origin.
Right. And
so what about the conclusion that you have an issue with?
Okay, so
I was specifically talking about, you said that there's 75%, let's say there's 75% we can't identify.
It wouldn't even matter.
We can't identify it, we can't identify it.
Right, that doesn't mean that we're not going to identify them in the future, but if we don't know something, we don't know something. Like, science is about objectivity and what we can see and observe, and if we don't know, we don't know.
Any given population of your choice because we don't know.
Or because you think it's convenient.
If it's unidentified, it's unidentified.
Right, like, or because you think it's convenient, because that is a fallacy.
It's only unidentified if you're looking at one measure of identifying something. Period. If you're just going off of the fact of DNA for what you find, yes, it's going to be a fucking mystery and it's going to be unknown. But
even in anthropology, for instance, the measurement of skeletons, there's context. Can we find populations to this day that are native to the Americas and have those features? Yes, we can. So what are the odds here? So what are the probabilities here? Why would you want to insert a Niger Congo person in Central America? Because
when there's no other evidence supporting that
at all.
The overwhelming evidence supports that it belongs to a Native American population. That we find skulls that are just the same, that we do get DNA from.
Mm-hmm. And where DNA lacks, we have craniometry. And if you just have to be able to study skeletons and study how humans adapt to a certain environment, you can't just insert a random population into whatever you want when the skeleton does not match that. You can't do that. That's not science.
I never argue skeleton. My major argument in these groups is identification and classification. It's not skeleton. It's not.
No. But you just talked about how we use the data of cranial measurement to deduce a conclusion and a theory, and that theory has a context behind it. So
what do you deduce from these findings of these skeletons without DNA? What do you deduce?
That there are modern.
If you did use DNA and you found these skeletons, what else do you deduce outside of DNA?
That there is a high probability that it belongs to a population of Native Americans that looks like some Native Americans still do to this day. Like the Kawaskar Portland, they look Australoid. You have the Yanomami from the Amazon. The facial features are flat noses, big lips. Okay, so populations can share in that. Okay, you have that the Wedge or another one who have a robot what they call proto-mongoloid features. They're not pro-mongoloid.
You have also the Awaja. They also have pro-mongoloid features as well. So
and you see the proto-mongoloid form all over South Asia,
But I never
with non-black people.
I've never argued with these specifics. That was never my argument.
so then what is it?
If you're showing me, based on your findings from the past, that they have these similar features of a people today, I would say, okay, based on the skull and the skeleton, I would agree with you. That would I wouldn't argue against that. Never. Because you're showing me like Lucia. I'm not gonna argue Lucia, but if you're telling me, oh, I'm like, okay, show me these people today that look like Lucia. All right, so I would say, okay, show me these people, and then I would pick those people, and then I would look at everybody that's classifying themselves as Native Americans, and I would say, okay, are they the same or are they different in terms of the overall classification of Native Americans? Those people that look like Lucia, I wouldn't doubt their native history at all, because you're showing me based on skulls, based on even if you are reason that they are the same. I would not argue that. That's common sense. But I'm saying, if you're telling me that most of the natives now don't look like that, so if they're claiming this history, I would say, well, show me the other skeletons and this other proof that you have science that matches the natives that look like they do today that claim this culture.
And we have the spirit mummy. We have the spirit mummy. Yes, we have the spirit mummy. I'm sorry, spirit king mummy from Nevada. We have the Sakak man from Greenland. We have so many. There's a few dozens. There's other. In fact, the proto-mongoloid that are closer to classic mongoloid skeletons are more abundant than Lucia and Naya and maybe Eva.
So wait, let me ask Amar a question then.
That look like light skinned European. Show me that. Please show me that.
Hold on. When we're talking about skin color, we're talking about cranial structure and facial features.
Well, wait. Okay, wait. We also have the cranial structures for Lucia, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, and Lucia, this is again one thing with science. For some reason, they managed to construct the whole facial features, everything with Lucia, to where you have an actual tangible visual, not just skeleton, but you can't see from the outside of what Lucia looked like.
Right.
I'll take that evidence. Now, point me to the current natives that look like Lucia, and I'm not going to challenge their history. But if you're telling me you just got some fucking cranials that I cannot see from the outside, we're talking about observation, you cannot tell me that they're the same as the people now.
So wait, let me ask you a question.
The same exact scientist that classified Lucia also classified the Botocudo, the Ayamara in South America as Paleo-Indian. He classified them the same exact way that he classified Lucia.
Now, good example. Now, I wouldn't even argue that, but if it wasn't even, that's not absolute, because you got some scientists, and I showed the link in Facebook, no one addressed it, that they might even be a product of some mixture that happened in regards to slavery.
No, these are isolated tribes.
Yes, it's false. Out of 35 samples, 35 skeletons.
I'll provide the link.
Okay, out of 30, and this is what your link is going to say. Out of 35 skeletons, they found two that had Polynesian markers, and those are from the current era, like in the 15 to 1700s. Yes.
Are they classified in the same group?
Yeah, and that hurts your argument even more, because they're Polynesian. They're not African. They're Polynesian.
Are they classified as those same groups of people?
What groups of people they're classified as Native Americans?
I'm confused here. What groups of people?
What group did you just name?
They found two skulls and they extracted DNA they drilled into the fucking skull and they extracted it. They were successful in
It wasn't the whole tribe. It wasn't. It was 2 out of 35 samples from a museum.
Let me ask Amar this: when you're asking, when you're saying, like, for example, that if there are people today that still can be compared to the remnants of the skeletons found like 40 or so years ago by these anthropologists, what do you say to the abos in the group that clearly have Western African features and claim to be connected to these Native American peoples when the skulls do not match their phenotypes